Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nelly. I do videos on hair, lifestyle, beauty, and everything around it. And I've been running like these live streams for quite some time now. I'm trying to catch up on my hours on YouTube. So that is why I come in here and share conversations and hoping that also these conversations are able to help someone, change someone, or help you think like of life in a different other way or stuff like that, like in just any other different way. So yeah, today I'm coming for you from to you from my house. No makeup because I'm ready for bed. Just going to throw in my silk bonnet and then I'm done. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to have this stream today is because of one, I think, yeah, one of my Instagram followers who sent me an inbox and told me to try and talk about this topic. So that is why I'm coming in live today to see if we can have this conversation. And I'm really looking forward to your input as well. To people watching, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, so which is why I'm having this conversation with you guys, because I'm looking forward to your input and also listen to what your opinions are when it comes to this particular factor that we're about to talk about. Now, a disclaimer: my kids are on the background, they're not yet sleeping. So if you hear any kids coming or screaming or whatnot, I'm going to try and control it the way much I can. Hey, Richie, how are you doing? Yeah, so I'm going to try and control it as much as I can. But if I'm not able to, then it's still okay. But yeah, so today the topic was on, by the way, Richie, before we continue, where have you been? You have been so MIA lately. I think I've not been able to see you in the longest time possible. How are you doing? I hope you are okay, and I hope you're doing fine. Um, and yeah, I miss you on social media a lot, especially on YouTube. I miss you so much on YouTube. Yeah, so I want to talk about, to first of all give a story to have so that we can have like a basis. And then after giving the story, I think I'll just try and narrow it down to like how many stories I had. One, two, three, four, and five stories. Can't wait for you to be back. So yeah, so growing up, I think I shared this. I can't remember if it's in this platform or if it was on Instagram, but I think these stories are going to be a major contribution to the conversation we're having, which is Black tax today. And I just want to add us to come to an understanding and try and think like, is there a thin? Because I know there's a thin line between responsibility and exploitation, and most of the time this especially happens even to a larger circle, but let's just deal with it at a family level, I think, because that's the smallest group that I think I can freely talk about, because I think even my stories come from like a family level. So I think it's the best place to start from. And when we're talking about these stories, most of the stories I'm going to talk about are going to be about my life personally, and also friends that I've had in the past and their life. So probably I would give like names which are not real names and stuff like that. So that's just a disclaimer. But I know that they are going to be a contribution to what we are talking about. And this is something that I want us to talk about with openness, because I've heard about the same topic being covered somewhere, and there's a lot of like, it was a much heated conversation in the platform where I was listening up to the conversation before. So, which is why I took this time to try and think on how to have this conversation and have it in a right way. So then when I was thinking about it, then these two, stories that I'm talking about came into my mind. So hence why we are here today. But thank you so much, regardless, for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you're meeting me for the very first time, like I mentioned, my name is Nelly, and I do videos here on YouTube. You can please support my content by watching for example, subscribing, sharing with your friend, and liking. And please also leave me a comment below, because it does matter to me to know what you guys think or about the content that I put out. Was it informative? I mean, your opinion, basically, because I'm an open minded person and I love to learn as much as people learn from me as well, or as we share information around or across. So, the first story will be the story of a childhood friend that I grew up with, and her mom used to be our cleaner in my home. So we lived part of our life in the city, and partly we also lived in the village. So this story specifically is for when we were living in the village. So my friend, the mom would come and clean up, and they were not so well off, so hence why um I would say basically the mom depended on the cleaning as the major source of income, which does happen with many people or many um homesteads from where I come from in Africa, specifically Kenya. So her mom would come and clean our house, and then my mom would pay them. But through that cleaning, me and her daughter became so good friends, and we were like more or less age mates. But I would say like she was way mature in thinking, the adult stuff than I was at that particular time. So every time her mom would come cleaning and her mom would be like washing clothes, her mom would always give her some comments that would make you look at her like, are you serious? Like, these are conversations that I try to have with my mom, and my mom would be like, it's so not responsible of her mom to have those conversations with her and tell her those kind of stuff, which I'm going to be telling you soon. But yeah, there are many conversations that raise questions in my mind that until today, that's when I've been like, so this is what it was all about. Like when you hear something and you can't really place your hand in it, and you're just like, maybe it's just some people's way of life, or maybe that's how their life is basically. So most of the time her mom would tell her, this time I think we were about I would say primary school, around 10, 11, less than 15 years old. And so less than 15 years old. Hi. No, it was about 14, 15 years old at that time. So that was, I think, approximately our ages at that time. And so her mom would tell her things like, oh, I'm here washing clothes. I'm actually really busy washing clothes for people, and you should be out there like any other girls do and get some food for us to eat. And I was thinking, like, whose responsibility is it to provide a meal in the house? Like, just because you have a daughter, yes, if you tell her that she should be out there to go get money for food, basically, and they're underage, the best bet I have, hey Manuela, the best bet I have of where you are sending them is probably to sleep around with people and then buy food and bring it home. And so I had like so many questions at that time, because I was like, because my mom at that age, if I came home with something that she did not buy, trust me, you're dead. But I think also partly because that is how I was raised up. Like, my mom was responsible for us, and we were not allowed to come in with anything that is not coming from her or my dad or my auntie, who she knows has given us something. Like, you could not just come with food and just say, oh, I have some donuts, and you don't explain where you got the money from if she did not give you the money. So for me, it daunted my mind so many times, because like, how would she be sending her 15, 14-year-old to go out there and get food, and yet she's not giving her any money, and they don't have any business that they're running aside from the fact that they come and clean for my mother. So then, long story with Atieno thing is, she would, at some point, she started having money, which was not money that she's being given by her mom, but obviously from men. And after some time, she got pregnant. And then after getting pregnant, then she had to drop out of school. And then after dropping out of school, then she would have her baby, and her mom also had a baby. And it was just, it like their economical status got worse. And still her mom would still say these same things like go out there and look for money and stuff like that. And so that is one of the question of the stories I want you to think about when we continue with having this conversation. The second one is my side of the story. So I remember like during holidays when we used to go and visit like aunties and uncles and whatnot. And then when you got there, it's like, okay, I know during holidays, what is it called? House helps most of the time go to their homes and stuff. But aunties would my aunties or my aunt, and I will not mention any in specific, but one of them would always mention the fact that, oh, you guys just came here and you're eating and you're not working. And it looked like even cleaning the house sometimes was not enough. Like it's like every time we visited, she had recruited labor, if that makes sense. So, and in my house, this was not like a normal occurrence. For example, like we, I don't know, I would say we were privileged enough not to. What is happening here? Okay. StreamYard is doing some stuff. Anyway, we're not going to worry about that. So I'm not able to see the comments though. Okay, just give me a minute and then I see what's happening. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So I think I clicked on something totally different. Anyway, so the way I grew up, like as much as we contributed into doing house chores, like is it chores or chores? I don't know. You tell me down below. So as much as we contributed to doing that, it wasn't like a laborer's thing. Like you have to do it in a certain way, or it has to be done within like I don't know. Like I think when you think about manual labor, like the one we went through in high school, for example, then you might be able to understand. But you haven't gone through that, then I don't really know, like what exactly. It's like when you're told you have to dig the farm manually, and maybe then I'm just trying to give an example. When you're told to dig a farm manually and then wash the dishes and then make breakfast by a certain time, and then it's like in the same household there are people, but then you, the newcomer, is the one who's supposed to make breakfast, clean dishes, clean the house, fold laundry, make dinner, go to the market. Everything is on you. And if it's not done, then you'll hear the owner of the house talking about things like, hey, Miss Aida, the owner of the house talking about things like, you guys are just eating and not bringing any, not helping out or something like that. And maybe when they're saying about this, it's just because a task has not been fulfilled. But oh, thank you so much, Miss Aida, for doing that. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. So most of the time would be like a task has not yet been completed, but the task can be shared amongst her and her children, for example, and you included as well. So it's like when you come in, then you are the house help, and then they take a leave to just sit, eat, and you just get to do every other work that needs to be done. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate that, Miss Aida. So I experienced that most of the time when I went to visit my aunties, and I think at some point it was just like so clear, like, sis, you are not visiting a relative, but instead they are recruiting a house help. Which now the difference is you are being fed, and then you do work, and then you're not being paid, basically. So that was kind of like, I'd rather just stay home, which staying home during the holidays sometimes was not fun, but I'd rather just stay home than go visiting people. And because they knew they need the help, they'll be booking like with your parents and stuff. So anyway, we ended up doing it sometimes when I went to visit my aunties, and I'll be subjected to that. But at some point, I just could not. I decided not to visit with people for that reason. And that is because like I felt like if people came to visit my mom, would share responsibilities like like the person who's coming is not coming to work for you guys. Like they're coming to visit, and you need to treat them like visitors, and not like house helps, for example. And then now another one is, after finishing now high school, and then I went to, and the reason why I'm sharing this is I'm trying to share this to just give you as something to hold on to when we start now talking about black tax, which I think somehow these stories are just rated, because why would your relative have you working for them and not paying you, and then saying that you need to be working, like doing the house chores by yourself, yet they have children who maybe are also your age mates and could be doing the same work, but then every time they come, they say, "Oh, I have you guys, and you guys are, or like Nelly, you guys are just sitting, and maybe they found you watching movies, like you and their children, for example." So for me, that is like labor. And it's like every time they have you over, they have recruited labor. And when they don't have you over, then they have someone working for them, for example. So another one is now when I finished a high school. Um, yeah, when I finished, before finishing high school to when I finished high school, I used to visit with, and this is because now we were basically now based in the village, my family, and I was trying to get exposure into what happens in the city. So I used to live with another relative, which who was really nice, like kind enough to accommodate me during that time. Instead of saying it's very common with Africans, yes, it's very, very common with Africans. So I used to visit with a relative who most of the time would, no, this is now after high school. So I went to live with this relative of mine who was supposed to, what is it called, teach me some work in the industry, like how to get income and save and stuff like that. Happened that he had the opportunity, and he was looking for people to hire. So when I went to live there, he said that he'll be paying me, and there was like a monthly payment, and if you wanted, you'd get like a weekly payment. So then he had like a workshop where there are many people like who are working there, and they'll be paid like during the week or in a month. And so when I started working there, I decided to be paid like every month. And so every month when month end came, every month when let me just okay. So every month when the salary time would come, then he'll be like, you're living with us, and I know you've been working, but you have also to contribute on part of the rent payment. So which means the whole month you have worked hard, I know, but the money you have made only goes towards contributing to your rental payments. And I'm like, dude, I'm less than 18, and you're telling me to pay rent, and you told me that the money I make from here will be my money and not pay rent when I'm living with you. So like, it did not make sense. So then I thought, you know what, maybe if I increase the amount of production that I do and then calculate also what I make, then make it clear to them that I actually make more. And maybe if the rent is like, if my share of rent, which was not made clear to me at that particular time, whatever my share of rent should be, that I would make enough to cover the rent, which they so called, I was living there, so I had to contribute into the rent payment. And I don't blame them really, because this is like not in the rich end of the city, like the rich suburbs of the city, but it was like more on the medium, or on the, let's say, middle class income earners. Let me just say there, to low income earners area. So basically, rent was not a lot of money, but like the fact that they would take all the money that I had made was just totally ridiculous. So every time I would make the money, she would say, you are still learning the job. And much as I tried even to make more than I had made last month to cover for the rent, and then say that maybe I'll have like maybe 2,000 shillings or 3,000 shillings on top of what I they claim that the monthly income was, it's still I still never saw my salary basically. So it all was just gone like that. So when I finished high school, then I knew I could have a direct opportunity with them, forgetting the fact that previously, which was another mistake, previously I was not being paid as much as I tried to increase my production. I was still not getting any income. So then when I finished high school, then now I came back to work with them. And I think at this time I was already also pregnant with my first son. And so stayed, work. And I was expecting that during all of this time I'll be being paid, and then I can be able to, cater in for the needs of my pregnancy and the baby I'm expecting and whatnot and whatnot. So I'll sit there the whole day from sunrise to sunset, sunrise to sunset. And then at the end of the month, he'll give me something like 1,000 bob and say, you know what, you actually produced less and still contributed to your rent. And I was like, okay, fine. But then maybe the best thing, because again, when you're too young, sometimes you do not know when you're being exploited. So I was like, I still need this accommodation. So if I'm paying for the rent and the food with all the money that I'm making, then they definitely can continue hosting me maybe for some time. And until when they say no, then that will be it. So anyway, ended up I in between my pregnancy, I stayed with them, and then I moved to different other places. Life happens. Moved to different other places, and then ended up landing back to them after delivery. So remember all that back time, I just lived there knowing everything I was working hard for was going into the rent and the food. And that was basically it. No special treatments, no nothing, no nothing, no money. Sometimes he'll give me like 1,000 bob, sometimes 2,000 bob, depending, which was not like really much. But again, when you're young, sometimes you don't get to think about these things. So, which is why I'm sharing my story. So if you're young and you're being caught up in the same state, you're able to, put your radar up and know when you're being exploited versus when you're being helped, because the things that sometimes they don't just make sense. So then after having my baby, then I decide, no, I think, I don't know what happened, but we met some time later on after I had my baby, like a month, when my baby was barely like a month old. And they offered me the same job, and they said, no, this time round, I'm going to be giving you money, because now I know the reason why I was not paying you before was because you're still young and you're not having responsibilities. So I did not want you to misuse your money. And also that way, I was also financially, like, he was also in a financially low place. So he depended also on my income to sustain the business as well. So he was like, we can be shareholders, this is like a family business now. I'll teach you how to do it. You can even one day open your own, blah, blah, blah. So many stories. And then I ended up going back to them. And so when I went back to them this time, remember, I'm a mom. And so I would live with them and continue working, and which I really appreciated, because I think at that time I did not really have like a place to stay in. Don't ask me where my mom was, because I think for me, when I was growing up, I knew when I became a parent, I wanted to be self-sufficient and not depend on my family or my mom and dad to provide for my child. Like, that is how I just grew up. So when I had a baby, I did not want to burden them with that burden of having to take care of me and my baby when the baby is still young. So when I started living with them, then I had at some point now, when my baby is like about 2 months, started taking the baby to the daycare, because I needed to put in work to be able to provide milk, diapers, clothes for this small, beautiful, cute baby that I had. So putting my baby to the daycare, then my baby got in Kenya at that time, the daycare people used to put formalin in the milk to preserve it. So my baby had like a bad digested a lot of formalin, let's just call it so. And needed like an urgent medical care. And I think I was sharing this. I'm not going to share much into this story because it's quite emotional and just heavy, but that is not why we're here today. So I needed to, long story short, needed the money that I was working hard for to take my baby to the hospital. And my relative goes like, you've been living with us, we've been providing for you and your baby. And I'm like, you've been taking cuts from what I've been making and telling me that you're helping me save it. And instead, now I need the money and you're not able to give it to me. So when he saw that I insisted, he told me, no, actually, get out of here. And I've never, those are the most painful words I've ever had from someone I've trusted, which is why me and trust, I have my own trust issues. Like I really do have my own trust issues. So he goes like, get out of this place, and don't ever think of me as your relative. I don't owe you nothing. Everything you worked hard for, you paid for your stay in here. And it was just so sad that at that particular time I had to experience that. But then again, these days I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was also because of stupidity, because it happened before. I went back to the same place, and then this happened again. So I had no one to blame, because they say once bitten, twice you shine. But mine, I did not shine the twice moment. So there is now the second one. And to think that I was not being paid, basically, I was being exploited. And then now narrowing down now to after school. So I finished school. Um, this is even despite having children, having my baby and stuff like that. So I went to college, put in some work again, because your girl is a hard worker. So I used to pay like work and then small jobs and then pay my school fees, pay my school fees like that. And my mom also would help me like with the payments. And then I had like a small house somewhere. I was living there. So life was pretty much okay. That time I was not able to concentrate, not really concentrate, but manage schooling and also taking care of my baby. So at some point I took my baby to my mom to stay with my mom, and then later on I took my baby back, and then life started picking up when I started working now. But even when my baby was staying with my mom, I would still like send some small money here and there for baby upkeep and stuff like that. I know it wasn't much, but still something. Anyway, so finished all of that, and then after school, then now I started realizing that now responsibilities begins to kick in. So I think the two people watching, please let me know who you are. I don't know if it's still Miss Saida and Richie, or no who's still there, but let me know who you are so we can. And I would also love to hear what you think. Um, then after, what is it called? After high school, which is which happens not after high school, after finishing college as well. This is about, now I'm about like, let's say 19, 20-ish. Then I also have younger brothers. So at this time, I noticed that I intentionally took responsibilities of my brother's school fees without, I'd say intentionally, with the intentions of helping. But then along the way came many other responsibilities that I did not intentionally commit to. And I know this happens with many other families. So I personally came from a family that is not so well off, that by the time I was finishing, I finished, like by the time I started working, hey Jane, thank you so much, Shiro, for being here. Really appreciate it. So I came from a family that was not so well off. So by the time I started working, I had to take the responsibility of paying school fees for my two younger siblings behind me, because I'm the first one. So when this started happening, so then there was now this many other responsibilities, like a funeral happens, you're called to contribute for the funeral, which I know is okay, because traditionally that is what we do. And someone comes to visit, you have to send money for the food and stuff like that. And then so in line of that, I was just thinking, like, personally, I was in a position to provide for that, but there are many girls who are not able to grow beyond um poverty, basically, because all the time when you get to a place where you start earning something, then your family, all of them, start depending on you. So instead of you running out of poverty, you're trying to take everyone out of that hole and bringing them out, if that makes sense. And I think for me, I would say the reason why I started paying school fees when I was really young for my younger brothers is because my dad made financial choices that were not so good. So it meant by the time he had a good job, but by the time he was retiring, he had basically, I don't know how to say it, but he wasn't making much, and yeah. So that, I think, for that reason, now let me just check to you and tell you about what is um black tax, so we don't end up coming out of the topic. Okay. So the term black tax is commonly used in South Africa, where it refers to financial support that Black professionals are expected to give to their extended families. In the US, it's also described as racial dimensions that perpetuate a cycle of inequality, such as lower pay and low standard of education. So I think this definition is saying that the term specifically comes from South Africa, but I think that this is something that affects all of us. So, like, for example, in my situation, the reason why I was paying fees was not because, one was because I'm able to afford it, but then two, at the same time, was because my parents, especially my dad, made bad financial choices that by the time I was starting to work, instead of working hard to build my future, I was trying to get my brothers educated so that they don't stay uneducated. So if if you are in a position like that, then maybe it's relatable. I don't know if it's relatable to you or not relatable to you. But in my opinion, like, I feel like if you if you guys are born, like, if you have a family, let's say, I'll give an example with my family. If you have a family of what is it called? If you have a family of, let's say, three people, then your parents should be able to secure even your brother's future education without having to expect you to provide for them. Like, whatever you make should be yours and to make you a better person, other than be used to help every other person behind you. Like, for example, if you're still working today, you should be looking into saving the money, buying yourself a home, or securing a mortgage or something like that, instead of having to put all the money back at home. So that is why I was saying that sometimes, most of the time, there's a very thin line where it stops becoming a responsibility and becomes exploitation. Because if you're not able to afford it, but then you still have to keep giving until you cannot afford your own lifestyle, then that means you're being exploited. You know, like, it's like you're a slave to your own family, if that makes sense. So um yeah, so it makes it really hard for you to be able to make something. Let me put my notes over here so I don't make something for yourself. So instead of you being able to take yourself out of the of poverty, you're stuck here trying to bring everyone else with you to the promised land, which is not happening to you yet because you're still here trying to bring everyone out. Um, so for me, I feel like that is partly black test, because I usually see, especially on social media, and people will give you comments like, "How can you post a good?" Which, it's okay to do so, but, like, how can you, if you post something, then how can you do it when your parents are living like this, or doing like this, or doing like that? And some people, most of the time, we don't sit down to think that it has no part to do with who they are, but maybe they have just not grown to that place of helping out, for example. Maybe, do it make sense? Like it's not that it's not their responsibility to take care of their siblings, because some of the siblings, you try taking care of them and then they try and take care of you. Like, you send money home, you work, you send money home, they enjoy life, they do not invest in themselves to make themselves better, because they keep having this dependency level. And that is why most of the time when you go on internet, you hear many people saying, I was robbed by my own family. I was sending money home for building and there was no building. I was working, not buying myself anything, suffering at work, suffering abroad maybe. And all the money that I worked hard for were all taken away. Hey, bunny. What's up?
Want to see.
You want to do what? Okay, go get your blanket.
I can't get it.
Tell daddy to give it to you.
Mom, the bed is too big for
What?
it's too big.
What's too big?
The bed. The bed. My bed's too big.
Oh, really?
Hmm?
Hey, Kanguri, is it too big?
Hmm?
I think it's too small, Daniel. Wait,
It's too small to carry it.
but if it's too small, it means you can carry it.
The engine's too big.
Don't carry Adrian's. Go take yours. How are you doing, Kanguri? I'm trying to reason here with my 2-year-old. Um, so amazing. Can you go take yours now?
I'm happy with the small ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I missed you too, Kanguri. How are you? I've been a little bit MIA, but now I'm trying like to come back. Sometimes I feel like social media becomes too much, and you just need to take a break out a little bit and then re-energize and then make it back. So I'm here.
Dad! Mom, I see a swamp over there.
Oh, really?
I see a swamp over there.
Okay. Okay.
Mom, there's a yellow train.
Okay.
And then there's a race toy. Helsinki.
You
It
have
has Helsinki there.
Helsinki there.
Yeah, it has Helsinki.
My son has really grown like so
There's a
much.
there, Mommy.
Hey, girl.
Can we go there?
Yeah, we'll go there. Can you ask Daddy if you can go there?
First one.
He knows a lot of places. I'm just so surprised.
Mom, this forest,
Mm-hmm.
the forest, that we can touch the train when you climb up the train.
Oh, really?
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. I agree.
It has mama names.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
It has
Mm-hmm.
bunch of Jaegers on it.
Oh my gosh. You saw all of that?
Yeah, all of those. And then it has marble. People have marble ones.
Mm-hmm. Najua Kiswahili
It
kanguri.
have marble ones
Uh-huh.
on the train. Not them.
Okay.
They say that to eat the marble ones.
Ooh.
They're not food.
They're not food. They're toys. And no child needs to put them in their mouth, right?
Yeah.
No eating them, yeah?
Yeah.
Good job.
Mom, we will use them.
You won't eat them.
We won't eat them. I saw a bus.
You've seen a bus? This is so funny. Today is telling me about marbles, and children should not eat marbles. Like, you should not eat them. And if you see the face he has is just so
Mom,
priceless.
someone got hurt.
Where?
They boo boo.
Oh,
They got hurt
oh.
on a bicycle.
Oh, no. Did they fall?
Yeah, they
Okay.
fall off, then
Just a
Then-
minute, guys.
they
I know,
then
right?
say
He is so
egg.
amazing.
Mama, they put them.
Thank you so much, Hungry, for being here. If you find time, please watch this stream.
He has a baby on his head.
Not a pee.
He has a baby on his head.
A pee.
On his head.
Oi, oi.
So
Mm-hmm.
he walked, then he got hurt.
Oh, okay.
And then the ambulance arrived.
Okay.
They took me to the hospital.
The ambulance took them to the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Then they got treated, yeah?
Mom, the
Mhm.
ambulance man said,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh no, that hurts."
Oh. Okay.
Yes, he got hurt.
Oh, I think the ambulance man must have been so sad that he also got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Okay, so back to our topic. Sorry. Thank you so much, guys, for being here.
Yeah.
So I think
Baby.
go get bandage from daddy. I think I'm going to try. Oi, oi. Sorry. Go get up something to cover it from daddy. Hurry.
Mom, tape would cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Only tape would cover it.
Yeah, so tarvit se lastare.
Yeah.
Yeah, go get from Isa. Isa anta sinule.
Oh no. What?
Close the door. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much. Sorry for that interruption. Daniel sometimes comes with a lot of stories and they're just so cute and so amazing. So yeah, but what I was trying to say now is, there's a thin line between being able to give something because you're able to afford it and giving something because you don't have it, but you still feel obliged to give it because if you don't give it, then they have this thing that if you don't, you sometimes you're told your parents will curse you, and if you let them, I don't know, things like those. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, you need to weigh your options not to be exploited because giving something you don't have means basically you're subjecting yourself to suffering in order to help another person who maybe also had a chance to provide and made bad choices, and then they want to live like probably they worked for 50 or 60 years of their life, and then they made bad choices with their income and probably maybe also did not invest in your education. And then after that, then you start working for 2 years and you have to even finance the living of the person who worked for 60 years or 50 years or 40 years or 30 years, finance their life because they made bad choices with their own income. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like for me, that's where you need to see that you're not being appreciated really, but you're being exploited. Because if you live with parents, and these are stories that I've had, you live with parents who maybe your dad was doing a good job and did the job for like 40, 50 years, and when they retire they have to call you and tell you, I'm going to this funeral. Especially like for me, for example, with Luas, like where I come from, like we have many occasions that, and Luas live that, like we really live big. If it's funerals, we slaughter cows. We do funerals as we do weddings, so it's like a big life in everything. You're going to visit an auntie, you don't just carry a small shopping. It's like this auntie deserves a goat, and then maize, and then this, and then money, and then whatnot. Like it's a big everything is a big expenditure when you come from a low community. And so I'm just thinking, to have a parent, or if you, for example, are watching this and you have a parent who was working and use their money maybe for on alcohol, maybe on women, maybe on name it, maybe on gambling, because some parents also gamble, or maybe just on bad businesses that were not worth it. And then when you now start working and you're getting like maybe your 10,000 or your 20,000, then you have to share the same money with the same parent who worked for years and never saved money for their own future. I think it's a bad thing. And why I'm saying it's exploitation is because every person who works need to work hard enough to make sure that they secure their future by paying into, for example, what would I call it, retirement, by paying into their retirement, by investing in property, so that when they retire they don't have to depend on you as their child, as their source of income. Because for me, I believe Africans, and especially African parents or African relatives, have the capacity of exploiting people badly. And it even gets worse when you happen to move abroad, whether it's for studies or for work, for example. So that is giving you last study.
Mom,
Mhm.
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
You go get the last study. You come get him. Thank you, Issa. You're the best. Close for me the door. Yeah, so I think like if your parents work and they work hard enough, they should be able to provide at least for themselves an income when they retire. And what you're giving to them after they retire should be just a surplus, like, an appreciation to the work they did in raising you up. And it should not be like something you must have to do. You understand? Like, it's not your responsibility to.
Sometimes that, mommy,
Uh-huh.
mommy,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bubble on my hand.
Uh-huh.
There's a bubble in it.
Okay. You go with daddy now. Love you. Love you. Yeah, so I think for me that is one of them. And then the second, which is where I started with sharing my story, the second type of exploitation I've heard about is where your family is not well off, and then you move abroad, in cases of people who have moved abroad. So then you move abroad, and when you move abroad, then your thank you so much, Kanguri. Just reading your comment now. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Kanguri, thank you so much. Kunguri, it's not Kanguri. Thank you so much for stopping by as well. Yeah, so you have like families where this is a story I also heard about on social media, where someone went abroad and then they started earning, like they did not started earning really, but married someone, and then they were also working, and then they decided to develop back at home, and then their brothers squandered the money that they were investing in. They were sending back home for development. Their brothers squandered and used them for their own like selfish needs, like food, maybe clothing and stuff like that, living a lavish life in the most posh areas. And I'm just like, it's not even our responsibility to take care of our brothers, but just because you've chosen to help them out or maybe hire them to do something for you does not mean that you are responsible for them. Like, actually, the person who should be responsible for your brother is your parents, because they are the ones who bought them. Like right now, I have my children, and I cannot depend on someone to provide for my children aside from me, unless I'm not able to, which I pray. And again, when I talking about not being able to, I'm trying to put into consideration that sometimes there are things that can happen that destroy income, like everything gone to the drain. Those are exemptional. But when it comes to places where nothing bad ever happened, that like all the income was used or lost and stuff like that, I feel like that is exploitation. And then there's also another one where all of a sudden, for example, in my community, when you get married, you're always told you need, if you meet someone, you need to pay dowry, which I know dowry is part of a tradition. But in my opinion, I should pay dowry if I know that it stays within the family, like this. Because let me just try and explain this to you, because I understand there are not many laws watching, maybe could be watching and understanding what I'm talking about. But when we pay dowry in my community, it's supposed to mean that it's something that your parent will have to see, not really something that replaces you, but something significant that stays with them, that they're able to nurture and take care of while you are gone to your new home with your husband, for example. So, in most cases, in some places you'll find that your family will put your dowry price really high, not because you want it, because again dowry is negotiable, but because they're looking into, maybe let's say you're one girl and then you're followed by other boys, and men, for us in my community, it's men who pay dowry, and our dowries is in form of cows, crops, and money, like all of those together, put together, and then the big celebration add on top of that, everything. And it's not just one cow, it's like six cows or four cows, like it's cows, not just one, like it's cows, and then crops, and then money on top of that. And then on top of that, the person paying the dowry, on top of that, the person paying the dowry also needs to pay. Now, your dad and your family will have to invite their, what is it called? Your dad and your relatives will have to invite your uncles and your aunties. You know, those aunties that you've never ever known. So, all of them are going to be invited to this ceremony. And then your husband or your suitor at that time is going to have to pay all of them, maybe like 1,000 bob each, which is like 100 euros. Is it 100 euros? 10 euros each, or maybe 20 euros each, depending on how rich your husband or your fiance or your suitor is at that particular time. So all of this income, all of this money to be paid during marriage is always being paid for by the man who's marrying the woman. And so I'm thinking most of the time we have cases where the family will put the dowry prices really high and negotiate it so high that it does not matter even if the groom is able to afford it. So they have an option of paying it in portions. And then basically what the family is trying to consider is the fact that when their other sons are getting married, instead of them working hard to buy the cows and go and marry the women, now it's like this, what the one girl that this family was lucky to have, will the man marrying this girl in the first girl of the family will have to pay a lot of dowry, a big lump sum of dowry to cover the marriages of the other brothers as well. And I'm thinking, like, isn't that exploitation? The reason I'm talking about this is because I'm a woman and I know maybe you also are there and you're about to be married or something like that. And I don't understand why, if you give a cow, me, I was never taken for a cow. If you give a cow, for example, then your brothers should get away with the fact that they need to work hard and buy their own cows. But instead, you are the one who your husband needs to pay for the cows, and then the cows, and even some moms use this to say, like, Kose nyuomi to owete gibrotio gidoge gomondo odio nyombi. Like your brothers will use those cows to go and marry their wives. Like, why are they not also accorded the same opportunity to also go work hard as your husband did, to go and also buy their own cows and then go marry their own wives, for example? So for me, that is also like exploitation. Like if I give dowry, which we did pay, if I give dowry, it should be able to stay within the family, which in my family it has always stayed within the family. Like you can still go there and say, this is so and so's cow, and this is so and so's cow, and this was married, these were the cows married that were paid for so and so, and these are the cows that were paid for so and so. I'm the only one who did not pay the cows. Anyway, yeah, so for me, I think that is exploitation, because if your parents are telling you that your husband needs to pay a certain amount of cows to be able to be used by your brothers in their own marriages, then I feel like no, 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 no. Um, The other example I was thinking about was, I tried to write um yeah, where you have to pay for any accident that happens, any sickness that happens, it's you, anything that happens is you. And then at that time, remember, and this is what comes to people who live abroad. So you are living abroad, and maybe you are also have you personally also have not figured out your life. And I think this happens to many people because people, when they move abroad, they don't tell their relatives back at home the reality of things abroad. For example, like, my parents don't put pressure on me because I've literally like brought them towards my journey, and I've always made it clear that I'm also trying to build a family, and I'm not just trying to support everyone back at home, if that makes sense. So we support where we can, and we don't support where we cannot support. And I think this also took me with practice, because before there are things that happens and you have to like contribute into them, and if you don't learn to say, I cannot afford this, I can do this but I cannot do this, then it really becomes really hard for you to find a balance in your life. So I've seen like many some people I've spoken to, many people, for example, when they move abroad, you don't tell your family life, the life that you're living or how you're managing and stuff like that. Many families, especially if you come to from families that are not so well exposed, who think that abroad there's a money tree somewhere that you can just go and pick on and then get money and then send back home. Like, you need to bring them in into the fact that life, even here, you have to work hard on everything. Like, there are opportunities, but there are steps you need to take to get to there are the baby steps you need to take, for example, to get to the opportunity you need. And before doing that, you are not able to help them, sustain them, or do the things they want you to do because they think that you are abroad. I feel like if you don't get to state these things clearly, like to your family members and stuff like that, when they come with the money request and whatnot, you're going to be exploited like really badly. And you need to be able to stand your own ground, because you're building your own life. Like, you're not living for them, like, this is your own life you're building. So you need to be able to stand for you need to be able to stand your own ground, and let them know that, even moving abroad, there's no money to that everyone thinks is the money to somewhere that you're going to just go and pick money and then send home. Like, you have to go to school, you have to work, you have to earn the money, start your own life where you are, try and afford yourself a decent life, and then be able to see whatever surplus you have on top, you send to them. So I feel like those are some of the things that I feel like, if we don't consider as Black people, as African people, then we are just going to constantly be exploited. And many other cases are going to come of people having depression, throwing themselves under the train, like the story I had. There's another one I was watching where a lady was talking about how the family literally ate all the money that she was sending home. They're having like drinks, alcohol, parties, whatnot. And then she was busy suffering in an Arab country, and then she even got a ban on the hand, for example, to put on top of all the sufferings and the jobs you have to do. And then after that, come back home and then come to nothing, when all along you have been sending money home for development. Like, if the development is not something you're able to see, do not send money to for that development to happen. Like, if there's a project being built, like, for me, if I'm doing something, I'll have like to call and video call and make sure. But my parents are okay because they're trustworthy. But if you have parents who are not trustworthy when it comes to money, parents who are not development oriented and business oriented, and not thoughtful, to invest money with those kind of people and think that they're going to use it for development, when maybe they're not business oriented, or they don't see the future you see for them, my sis, brother, you are investing like in the wrongest place ever. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that I wanted to just come in here and talk about. The fact that try when you have to invest back at home, make sure that the investment you're making is something that you're able to be called and confirm, because we've had cases where someone buys land, and then the land, you're told the land was bought, you send money, you're told the land was bought, you send money for building, you're told the materials were bought, you send money for fundis, you're told construction is on the way, and yet all that time your relatives could even be taking photos of your neighbor's project, and telling you this is your project, and then the day when reality hits home is the day when you come back home and you're like, but you guys are building something, like what really happened. So I feel like those are some of the things that if you live abroad, you need to really, really, really consider and know that the things that can happen, and you should watch out not to be exploited. um yeah, and I was also reading today, someone posted on their Instagram stories, and they were saying that not they were not saying, it was a document by NTV, which was saying that in Kenya, Kenya is the fourth actually, with the highest number of depressed people in Africa. And in the world, globally, I think we are the ninth. And then within the statistics of the country, we have 1.9 million people who are depressed. And that just shows, like, because all of this is contributed with the economical state of the country. You come from a poor background, for example, then you get to a place, you work so hard, you start earning some money. Instead of bringing yourself to a better place economically, you also try and pull people who are down there before you are even able to find your own ground and stand and say, you know what, now I'm okay to go back and pull other people. You understand? And I think we also have to remember that takers will always take. Like, givers will always run empty, but takers will always take. As long as there's something to take from somewhere, people will always want to take. But people who are giving are the ones who run empty. And when you run empty, those people you've been giving to, they won't look back and say, actually, they help us. They'll be like, did you see? Like, it happens. And they'll be in my community, like, they are the ones who'll be the first ones to say dongi woro. Dongi woro means, I don't know, direct translation, like you have seen, for example. Like, they'll be the first ones to give the sarcastic laugh at your failure, for example. And these are the same people who, when you go home, they're like, I helped your mom when your mom was there, this and that. I used to carry you. And these are aunties or uncles, maybe, who you have not even met. These could be potentially your enemies, frenemies, because you're related, and they always wait for your success to say you're doing good because you're able to help them. And on your down moment, when you are financially broke or things are not working and stuff, they'll be like, did you not see? Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Like, so you need to really be wise and vigilant, and know, like, how to invest your money for yourself so that the money can work for you first. Florence, hey, how are you doing? Thank you so much for being here. I was talking about black tax and how it affects different people, and I started by giving, like, some stories behind back there. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about. Yeah, so these are the first people who be like, dongi woro. Like, dongi woro means the wakutia finyo, like people who be like, you see, even you have fallen or something like that. And these are people who, when you were doing good, they're like, oh, I used to help you like this. Oh, why did you not bring me sugar? Why did you not bring me this? Oh, give me some money, give me some this, take responsibilities of my daughter so and so, help me pay for their school fees. Like, it's okay to help, it's okay to give back, but not at the expense of your own financial security as an individual. Like, you need to put yourself first, and then be able to provide for other people, even your parents too. You need to put yourself first, and remember that if you don't take good care of yourself, then there's no one going to show up for work and bring some income. And also, don't help to an extent of being hungry because you're not able to eat, feed yourself because you're busy providing for people who maybe had time to make their own income and then misuse their money maybe on hey Poa Lindo, oh nice to see you. Like for example, we're talking about black tax today, so don't end up be sharing like some past stories of things that I know with regards to this. So please feel free to watch it back again if at all I end this like soon. So like I'm saying now is that nice to see you too. Thank you so much for being here. I'm still enjoying the weather and looking outside. It's so like nature is so beautiful from my window. I wish I can like turn the camera and show you guys. But yeah, so like we need to be vigilant enough to know like if your parents were working and they made bad money choices, like you cannot make it better. You cannot cover up for the fact that they worked 40 years, 30 years. Thank you so much for being here. My son is crying. Okay, he's quiet. So like you need to understand that if your parents for example worked for 40 years, they had a chance. Okay. I muted because my son was crying. But they are with their dad, so everything is fine. So you need to understand that, like I was saying back again, you need to understand that if your parents, for example, worked for 50 years or let's say 40 years, their responsibilities were to raise you up. And then your responsibilities is to help them whenever you can supplement on what they have, not forcefully give to them everything that you have. Your responsibility is to support wherever you can, but it's not. Is it your responsibility? Your responsibility is to appreciate them, okay, and then help whenever you can. Paulina, you can help me with the thinking, and their responsibility is to provide for you so that because you are their child. For example, like I have my children, my responsibility is to provide for my children, and when they grow older, their responsibility will be to help whenever they can, but not it's not like something they have to do. It's not mandatory that they have to do so. But if you have a parent who, for example, spent 40 years working and earning good salary, never invested much to take you to school, which maybe let's say you took yourself, paid for your school fees and stuff like that. And then when you start working, there's the same parent who comes and tells you, oh, how much are you earning? So out of your salary, let's say you're being paid $200. Out of your $200, $100 should be coming to us, and then you find out how to live with your $100. Like if that is exploitation, like a parent who's coming to tell you how much you need to have and how much you need to give them, that you're being exploited. At the same time, your responsibility is not to raise your siblings. It's your parents' responsibilities. But if you come from a poor background, you can help change the story of your family by helping where you can to pay for their education. Maybe if you have money, if you're able to, don't forget about them. But if you're not able to, it's not your place. You can work hard, take yourself out of poverty, and then they can also find their way the same way you found your own self, leave them along the way though. And also I feel like your responsibility is not to, like, this paying of dowry and stuff like that, to some extent it's exploitation, especially for families who take dowry as an intent to use it to pay for another child's dowry. It's promoting laziness on the second one, in my opinion. Like, it's like the second, the people who are behind you, who are going to use your dowry to pay for their women, are being told you have a right to just be lazy and not work so hard, and then you'll use, let's say, for example, Nelly's cows to pay to go and marry your wife. Yet Nelly's cows were paid by another man's son, who works hard enough to make sure that they're able to pay for a dowry, for example. So yeah, I think these are some of the things that came to my mind with regards to this topic. And feel free to let me know what your opinions are, your comments and everything in the comment section. I'll be really willing to read through and listen. If this does not affect you directly, I hope it informs you. And then also, please consume my content by watching the playlist that I have on audience retention. I'm trying to get to I need like 400 hours right now. It's less than 400 hours as per yesterday. Less than 400 hours as per yesterday. And being a student, it's now going to be tougher to be online, other than it's easier to put out content, but it's harder to work on these hours as fast as I want them to. So I was really hoping that I'm able to get these hours soon, and with your help I'm able to. So please consume my content, watch the playlist we've done on audience retention. There's a lot of information in there that I've had a chat with amazing women, amazing ladies, and you can have a listen and learn a thing or two, share with your friend if it does affect them directly or not. And also, yeah, just support your girl, because I need it. I need it. I need it. And tomorrow is my birthday. So I don't think tomorrow I'll be seen here, but I have a video for you guys, which I should be putting up tomorrow. So watch out for that as well. And yeah, today came like this because after this, I'm going straight to bed. So thank you so much for everyone who came by. Just remember that mental illness is a real thing, like it does happen, but let not your family be the reason why you get into depression because you cannot provide for them, or the reason why you kill yourself because you're not able to provide for them. Learn to create a barrier, and have a barrier that you're able to say no and yes when you're able to, and no when you're not able to, because otherwise it's going to consume you, and then you're going to just end up living an empty life of hard work, and which turns into basically slavery.
Mommy.
Yeah, what's up, baby? Yeah, which is going to what? Okay, now let's go. Yeah, which is going to turn into slavery. So thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for watching this. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys soon. And if you watch this, leave me a happy birthday down below.
I saw a race car.
You saw a race car?
Yeah.
Ah, wow. Okay, guys, I'll see you. Bye.
Bye, babe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we love you.
I love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Now we go. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Over here. Say bye.
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 Bye. Bye.